In addition to the timeline and the toolbar, we'll need the channel box. I'll select my geometry, delete by type history, and because my channel box reflects certain transitions and positions of my cube, I'm going to click on Freeze Transform or go to Modify Freeze Transforms. In this instance, I want to rotate this cube 360 degrees. With the channel box zeroed out and returned to the default setting, I can precisely set one keyframe, as we will, at frame number 1 and leave it at 0, advance to another frame in our animation, keyframe it, and put in 360. Now, to animate any of the features using the channel box, all I need to do is first rewind to the point in which I'd like my animation to begin, in this instance frame 1, and I'm going to rotate it on the y-axis. If I were to click on Rotate Y, the second term down is key selected. There's a red rectangle that appears next to the Y in the channel box, and a corresponding red line at the beginning of our timeline as well. I'm going to advance to frame 100 by dragging or by putting the number inside the numerical box just to the left of the toolbar. And then I'm going to click on the 0 in Rotate Y and put the number 360 in. A corresponding keyframe has been put in the timeline. Now I can drag through the timeline if I choose to preview what I've done, or I'll put my playback at the beginning of the timeline, and I can go to the toolbar, and the second large triangle will allow me to play my animation from beginning. Now if I wanted to, I could rewind, and I could do the same with any of the features here. So I'm going to change the scale as well. At frame 1, I'll click and drag through multiple functions for scale, and if I drag to the right, I can select the numerical values as well. I'll right-click on any of the terms and choose Key Selected. Now I'm going to advance to frame 100, and I'll make the cube smaller. Now in the toolbar, I can use the single white triangles with the orange line in front of them. The first one will let me take it backwards in time. The second one, on the other side, its mirror image, would let me advance through keyframes that exist. You'll see that either one in this instance will take us to 100. Now I'll just hit R on the keyboard and I'll scale my cube down. If I were to drag through my timeline, now it scales and rotates a single cycle. I'll go back to the beginning of the timeline, and now I'm going to keyframe the translation. I'll click and drag through all three terms and across into the numeric value, right-clicking on any of the terms using Key Selected. I'll go to frame 100 again, using the tool to navigate to existing keyframes, and in there I'll hit W and I'll just randomly drag my animation to the side. Now if I were to drag through, I have all three functions going at the same time. Now, if for any reason I want to delete keyframes, I can hold the Shift key, drag across it, and in the red selection box now I can right-click, hold my mouse down, and I could choose Delete. I'm going to hit Command-Z. I can also shift and drag through, and if we examine that red bar a little bit more closely, you'll see it's flanked on either side by a yellow triangle and then two in the center. The two in the center allow me to move that keyframe along the timeline. So if I wanted to speed up the animation, I could go closer to frame number 1 where the first keyframe is, or I can put it at a later keyframe for the animation to move more slowly. So now you can see that it is happening more slowly. I can shift and drag through both keyframes. And in the process, if I were to click in the center and move now, both keyframes move, maintain their distance. But now if I go to the beginning of the timeline and drag through, the animation won't activate till frame 60 where the first keyframe has been moved to. So the Shift key allows us to edit keyframes in the user interface timeline by moving, deleting, etc. When we have all the keyframes of a given animation selected, in addition to being able to move where they begin and end in time, we can also change the speed of them in the context using the yellow triangles on either end. So now I'm changing the speed and the location at which the animation commences.